Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today in this very video you're going to be learning how to make a princess dart bustier top for a plus size. You can see the beautiful Ankara that I have. I also have the measurements needed right there. So because this Ankara is kind of colorful, we want to draft on our pattern paper. So I have my brown paper ready and I'm marking out the shoulder line. After I mark out the shoulder line, the next step I'm going to take is from this shoulder line, I'm going to measure down to 12 inches, that is for the bust point, and then 16 inches for the under bust, and then down to 20 inches for the waistline. Okay, so for the front length, I'm going to be making use of 20 inches, but then for the back length is 17 inches. We already know that our back and front length is normally not the same. Okay, so from here we are going to divide the shoulder into two and note what you have plus half an inch stitching allowance. From there you are going to go down by 1 inch for your slope, and from this 1 inch divide your bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5, which is going to serve as the chest line. Okay, so after I'm done marking out this line, I'm going to connect it together and then label all my lines. So I have the chest line, bust point, under bust and waistline. So what I'm going to do is to divide the distance between the slope and the chest line by 2. Whatever I have, I mark it out and then go in by 0.75 inches. Okay, so after that I'm going to leave it that way and then divide my bust circumference by 4 plus half an inch because I like leaving ease around the armhole. Okay, and then I would go ahead and repeat the same thing for the bust point, and then to the waist I'm going to divide my waist circumference by 4. Okay, and then from there I'm going to connect these lines together. So after you are done connecting this line, next is for you to bring in your curve ruler and then connect your armhole. Okay, so you can see the way I'm connecting this. Now once you are done with that, you're going to, from the center front, divide your nipple to nipple measurement by 4. So for this person, she's a plus size and her nipple to nipple is 5. So I'm going to add half an inch for stitching allowance. That's why I made use of 5.5 inches. Now that I have this nipple to nipple measurement, from the bust point I'm going to go down by 0.75 and then go up by 0.75, and then I would go ahead and connect my lines. Okay, now to the waist we are going to have to take in our dart. So I made use of 1.5 inches for my dart intake and I shared this equally on both sides. So basically you guys, I made use of 0.75 on both sides and I then went ahead to connect my dart legs. So next step for me to take is to measure what I have around my armhole. So after I measured it, I have 12 inches. What you're going to do is to divide this 12 inches by 2. So what you're going to have is 6 inches. Now from the slope you're going to have to measure down to 6 inches, and from this point connect that into the point that you have right under the chest line. Okay, now from this line you're going to have to take in your dart. So I'm going to use 0.75 on both sides and then also connect my dart leg into this line. Okay, and then bring in your curve ruler to connect your shape properly well, because you don't want any sort of sharp curve. So now once you are done with this, next step is for you to note your darts intakes. Okay, so you're going to replace all your dart intake. Now on the waistline, replace 1.5 inches. Okay, and then on the under bust, you're going to have to divide your under bust circumference by 4. Whatever you have there, mark it out, and then check your dart intake. Now for my dart intake, I have 0.75 inches. I'm going to also mark it out, and after this, I'm going to have to, from the chest line, connect my line down to waistline. Okay, now that I have this, I'm going to check what I have remaining on that under bust. So what I have remaining there is 1.25 inches. Now I'm going to share this equally on both sides of my under bust. Okay, that is to contour the under bust. I want to tighten this under bust. So what I'm going to do is from the dart leg, not from the nipple to nipple line. So what I'm going to do is on the side front, I'm going to take in 0.75 inches, and then on the center front, I'm going to take in half an inch. And once you are done with this, go ahead and use your curve ruler and connect that into the bust points. Okay, once you are done with this, you go ahead and connect this line properly well, and make sure to use your curve to connect these lines very well, because you don't want any kind of sharp curve, okay, by the time you want to join your curves together. So you can see that our cups are ready. So what we are going to do next is to raise the dart leg, which is towards the side front, by 1.5 inches. Okay, so after you raise it, you're going to have to place this 1.5 inches on the chest line also, plus your sewing allowance. So I'm making use of 2 inches for my sewing allowance, but getting down to the waistline, I'm going to make use of 2.5 inches for my sewing allowance. You guys, from my years of experience, I noticed that this waistline side, once you are done joining your seam allowance, it becomes shorter. Okay, so your seam allowance right there shortens. That's why I'm adding excess seam allowance than what I'm using on other places. Okay, now moving ahead, we are going to go back to our neck, because we haven't input the shape of the neck that we want here. Well, for me, it's just going to be a round neckline. So for the neck width, I'm going to make use of 4.5 inches, and then for the depth, I made use of 5 inches. Okay, so I went ahead to use my curve ruler to connect my neckline, and after that, I also went ahead to input my shoulder stitching allowance. And yeah, you guys, this is it for our princess dart bustier. Okay, so you can see I have my CF and my SF, and I also went ahead to use my ruler to connect my dart, which I raised up. Okay, and then I have a new armhole, you can see. So once you're done with this, you go ahead and cut out your center front. Once you are done cutting this out, you're going to move down to contour our bust. Okay, so we are going to have to, from the bust point, go down by 3 inches. Remember that the front bodice is longer than the back by 3 inches, so that's why you can see that from the bust point I came down by 3 inches. So I'll go ahead and connect this into the bust point, and from here I'm going to continue to cut out the remaining part of this pattern. Now what I'm going to do next is to extend this outward by half an inch or 1 inch, whichever you want. Okay, reason is because if you try to cut this out and then close it up, you might run short of fabric. Okay, so it's better for you to have excess than running into shortage. So you can see where I stopped, and then I'm going to close up the dart. I'm going to make use of my tape to close down these darts. And once I am done closing down the dart, you can see my reason of extending that line. All right, so I'm going to use my ruler right now and connect the line properly well, and then go ahead and cut out the remaining parts which I'm not going to be needing. So you guys, you can see this is what we have. I'm going to use my scissors to cut out the remaining parts, and then I'll cut through the armhole and then cut out the remaining parts. And you guys, we are done with the front pattern, so we are going to go over to the back pattern right now. The back is kind of very easy. The difference between the front and the back is that the front is having a cup, okay, but the back is not, and the back is having a zip but the front is not. So what I have here is my basic bodice pattern with what I have, okay, with the shape of my armhole for the front. I'm not going to go in by 0.75 for the back armhole, so I'm going to go ahead and alterate that, so which is why you can see that I've cancelled out the front armhole that I have right there. Every other thing is the same right here, okay, the shape, the nipple to nipple measurements, aside that this has a zipper allowance and that the neck depth is 1.5 inches, okay, and then the length of this back is 17 inches. So you can see me doing the calculation. The front is 20, the back is 17, and then we have 3 inches after we minus this. That's why I contoured my bust with 3. All right, so what next is to input my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 5.5 inches, and after that I'm going to take out my dart. So for my dart intake I made use of 0.75 and then went ahead to rule my chest line, my chest line down to the center front, okay, because I want to be able to note where I will have my dart stop. All right, because the back dart is mainly 1 inch below the chest line, okay. So once I was done with that, I went ahead to replace my dart, which is 1.5 inches, and then added my 2.5 inches seam allowance. Okay, no, I made use of 2 inches seam allowance right here, and then replace my other seam allowances, okay. And now what I did, because I want to have a shoulder dart or for the back, so I'm going to have to divide my shoulder into 2. So I have my shoulder to be 4 divided by 2. I have 2 inches, so I went ahead to mark out 2 inches and then connected it down to the darts, okay. So now you can see the red arrow that I'm showing you. This indicates that I should add seam allowance, okay, but I'm trying to demonstrate something here for you guys, okay. I'm trying to let you know that if I want, I can extend my shoulder line down to this point, okay, because I'm supposed to have half an inch on the side, back and center back, right after the chest line. I don't know if you get me. I just use this to show you an illustration, so I went ahead to cancel it back. All right, now after once I am done cutting and I want to cut on my fabric, I should have half an inch seam allowance right on that. Okay, that will be my sewing allowance. So after I did that, I went ahead to add up my shoulder half an inch seam allowance, and then return back to my zipper to contour it, because you don't want any form of bulge around the zipper area. Okay, that's why you can see that I came in by 1 inch and then connected this to the neckline. Okay, so you guys, you can see, yes, we are basically done with this. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and yeah, that will be all for this tutorial. So you guys, if you find this tutorial helpful, why not subscribe to this channel if you haven't done yet. Remember to leave a comment, a suggestion. Is actually what I need on this channel. You guys share to get more people to see this video, and if you enjoy this video, don't forget to give it thumbs up. I didn't say thumbs down, give it a thumbs up. Okay, so you guys, I will as usual see you in my next tutorial. Okay, so you guys, bye.